The profession is in dire straits now. I say this because people are questioning the relevance of the profession and are questioning the professionals themselves to say, are these the people we can trust? So it's really for the profession to try and get itself out of the situation where it finds itself. People are worried about the response time it takes to try and resolve or address a number of these auditing firms which find themselves either having done something wrong or perceived to have done something wrong. So I think it's a time for reflection. It's a time where the profession is facing real challenges.
Right, and we'll get into the time that it takes to address the various issues rather. But just a sense from you, something that was spoken about during the panel discussion that you were a part of is the relationship between the client and the auditors, some of them which have been implicated in the recent news events. What would you say that's like in the state?
Well, the relationship is quite, it differs really, I think, from client to client. That's first. There are others where the relationship is good, where the auditor plays the role, is allowed to play the role, where the board audit committee supports the auditors, and they'll be able to do that. But in some instances, it's a bit tough, it's a bit tense, it's a bit robust. But we have to look at also the role that is played by management, by chief financial officers, by chief executive officers, who in some instances themselves are chartered accountants. The role that they're playing that makes this relationship so difficult, because some of them come from the same audit firms that audit them. So it's really those dynamics that are there. But as I said earlier on, some of them, for an example, in the firm that I have, we have a robust but a very good and constructive relationship with our auditors.
How would you say, as a government stakeholder, would you like to see a change in the way that the industry is run in terms of the regulatory environment, just to ensure world-class operations?
Well, when we look at what has happened, it's very obvious that whatever processes were in place are not sufficient. Because when we look at an institution like SAICA, which is for all chartered accountants, whether in public practice or not. So it's really then, how does an association like SAICA ensures that it engages or even holds accountable those that are outside of public, a person like myself, for an example, who's not an auditor. That's one part. But also how they engage with those that are auditors. So there is indeed a need to have a relook. It's been self-regulatory for a while. The question is that enough? Do we have enough of the independent people? People are outside who are not necessarily auditors, so that they can give you also a different perspective. But also we have to check, is it diverse enough? Do we have more women? Do we have blacks and all of it, so that it's very well balanced?
On the question of accountability, who should be held accountable in the current state that we're seeing? Trevor Manuel did mention that there have in the past been some criminal proceedings that have taken place, but with recent developments we haven't seen that kind of action taken place. So essentially, who should be held accountable, particularly when we have corporates who are dealing with government entities?
Well, firstly, we should start where there are cases where IRBA is, for an example. They should finalize those cases. Those people must be held accountable. Where SAICA is, if their members are implicated, and some of them have been criminally held, charged, and they've been found to be criminally responsible, those members should not continue to be members. But also the companies themselves, they've got shareholders, where there are shareholders who it's clear that either their management, be it CEO, CFO, have been found wanting, they must be held accountable.
Right. And then also just the outlook on the industry in South Africa. It was once deemed to be one of the world-class industries. And how do we restore that confidence in your view? Are there engagements happening with private sector South Africa as well as the public sector?
Well, firstly, this is a wake-up call. Secondly, we've seen how people have reacted to one of the big four. So for me, that's a sense to say that people have said this is so far no further. But also the conversation we've had with SAICA now, where the association is saying, help us, let's relook at ourselves. I think it's brave. And I think the commitment that is made, that it's not going to be just a talk shop, so there needs to be follow-ups. But also, I think when those cases, if we can just speed up on those that are under investigation, if we can speed up on those, come to some finality, take decisive actions, and let not, you see, it's easy for people to hide behind audit firms' names. If they are, because audit firms are individuals. If there are individuals that have been found wanting, those individuals must be held accountable. But if I look, this is a good start, and we can only learn from this. I believe it can be night forever. We will get to the day. And I think it took a bold step to say, come, let's engage, help us to say, how do we bring back this profession, which has been very noble.